Moving pretty good there, Joe.
Feels good, huh?
As long as she hits you in the head, Joe, it won't hurt. Anywhere else you might hit Joe.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, need some Scotch tape? Got any Scotch tape? Any tape? Jerry wants tape. Alright.
Well, I want to thank everyone for attending tonight's meeting. Today is Tuesday, July the 17th. Time is now 6 p.m. The regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Trinidad will now come to order. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bernardo.
Here.
Goodall.
Here.
Riego. Here. Lopez.
Here.
Matei.
Here.
Miles.
Here.
Rico.
Here. First item on the agenda is proclamation National Night Out 2018. Is there anybody in the audience to receive the proclamation? Come forward, please. This is from the Office of the Mayor of Trinidad, Colorado. National Night Out 2018, August the 7th, 2018. Whereas the National Association of Town Watch, NATW, is sponsoring a unique nationwide crime, drug, and violence prevention program on August 7th, 2018, entitled National Night Out. And whereas this year marks the 35th anniversary of the annual National Night Out, a program that provides a unique opportunity for the City of Trinidad to join forces with thousands of other communities across the country in promoting cooperative police community crime prevention efforts. And whereas the City of Trinidad fully supports the Trinidad Police Department in their crime, drug, and violence prevention efforts and is supporting National Night Out 2018. Locally, and whereas it is essential that all citizens of the City of Trinidad be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs, and the impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in our community. And whereas police, community partnerships, neighborhood safety, awareness, and cooperation are important core themes of the National Night Out program. Now therefore, I, Philip T. Rico, Mayor of the City of Trinidad, Colorado, on behalf of the entire Trinidad City Council, we hereby proclaim August the 7th, 2018 as National Night Out 2018 in the City of Trinidad, Colorado, and call upon all citizens to join the Trinidad Police Department and the National Association of Town Watch in supporting the efforts to create police community partnerships, neighborhood safety, and crime, drug, and violence reduction. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of this city to be affixed. Mayor Philip T. Rico, dated July 17th, 2018. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Will you turn this way, please? Read it in there. Thank you. Thanks.
This is for City Council tonight. I want to make a minor change in the way we call to motion, or to any motion. In the past, I've always asked for a motion to approve. Tonight, what I'm going to start doing is asking for a motion, and someone who will call the motion will actually do the motion. and then we'll call a second and go forward. So, well, in other words, if I say we have a motion, I call for a motion online, et cetera, someone will have to say, I make a motion to approve or disapprove or however, okay? Approval of the agenda, do we have any changes to the agenda? None? I have a motion, please. To approve,
approve the agenda?
second,
I second.
roll call, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 3, policy items and staff reports. Item 3A, ADA symposium, Mr. Tom Beach, ADA coordinator. Mr. Beach, would you please come forward?
Mr. Mayor, member of councils, Tom Beach, ADA coordinator, public works director, a couple other things we won't go into at the moment. I wanted to bring this to you, and I hope you all had a chance to read it, the letter that I sent you. And I will be more than happy to answer any questions, but I just wanted to kind of stress the importance of the ADA coordinator's position in the city and the ADA issues that we face as a city, and all cities are facing. It's not something that Trinidad has been singled out to address. Every city in the country is addressing it in one form or another, or will be very shortly. As I said in the letter, the legislation was passed in 1990 and took effect in 1992 with the intent that all things would be rectified by 1995. That didn't happen. It just didn't. And some places are not anywhere even as far as we are. And we're not very far up the ladder on getting things accomplished, but we're getting there. We're working on it. A lot of the things that have to do with the ADA, as I said in the letter as well, is that the person with a disability is a person first. It's not a disabled person anymore. It's a person with a disability. And there's a difference. Because those persons, 1 in 6, there's 7 of you. Chances are one of you has a justifiable disability. 60 million people in the United States. As I said in the letter, as the older we get, myself included, the grayer we get, the more likely we're to become one of those in that group. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. You know, I don't know what all to go into, how far to go into things, because I could be here for most of the night, and I don't think you want me to do that.
Mr. Matei, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Sure.
Mr. Beach, do you have any kind of feedback as to how Trinidad's faring in comparison? Did you get any feedback at all on our progress?
When the best part of the symposium, one of the best parts, was getting a chance to network with others, either at breakfast that was served daily or lunch, and in between the classes. We're on about average, we really are. There's a lot of places that are way bigger trouble than we are, because they've let it go and they haven't done anything, nothing with their streets or sidewalks or buildings. Their computer issues, as Ms. Schaff has done with getting us up online, being able to access documents online. Others are just about done with their settlement agreements. They've, of course, they've been working on them since 2000 or 2002 or whenever. They've had quite a while to work on it. We're doing okay for what we are, and the amount of time we've spent on it, the amount of time we've had to spend on it. We're doing okay.
Are there many other communities that have DOJ
Oh, yeah.
issues like we do?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like I said, in Kansas City, I about fell off my chair when Kansas City was talking, because they had 2 people, again, excuse me, that aren't just the ADA coordinator. The one gal was the ADA coordinator / Parks and Rec, I believe. The other was the city architect who was helping the ADA coordinator / Parks and Rec. So they were combined. They had 40,000 items to correct in the city of Kansas City. We had 320. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. You know, of course, it's a larger area and it's an older city. They have a lot more different things that they've had to correct. And they've had to actually take out a bond issue to cover their expenses. They're looking at $200 million repairs and changes. Yeah.
Sure.
I learned a lot in the memo, so it was very helpful.
Oh.
And especially the 1 out of 6 number, that Ford.
Yeah, it's actually like 1 out of 1.56.
One thing you mentioned is, contrary to popular perception, there is no grandfather.
That's true.
But I thought that there was a provision, maybe you're gonna educate me further, where if you had an old historic structure and it wasn't suitable for a wheelchair modification or something like that, that there were hardship ways. I mean, I worry about that in the police.
If
In
I may.
Trinidad, I can
Right.
point out 10 buildings where I don't know even how I'd begin to do it. You know?
Correct. And there is no grandfather clause. That's a fact.
And there are no hardship cases either.
No, that would be true. What would be a alternative to a non-accessible building would be to supply a place, another place for those services and goods to be rendered. We've had an example at the library next door with the second floor basically being inaccessible to a person in a chair. And in order to accommodate them, we would have to move the reading, say the Friday night readings that they do, over here perhaps. That would be a reasonable accommodation. And that would get us around that. You know, rather than saying, okay, no, we can't do that, we have to build an elevator, we have to do this, we have to, that's, you know, and to say that that building's grandfathered in, no.
It's a stretch.
Yeah, it's really stretching.
That's all I have. Thank you.
So you mentioned a bond issue, and we have a couple of pretty big projects that we're gonna have to tackle. The grandstand at the baseball field and the gazebo at Kit Carson Park, a couple examples. What kind of time frame are we looking at for those type projects, and are we gonna be having to look at?
Mike, if I may, both of those projects, I'm hoping to get out for proposal requests before winter, to find out what people have in mind, what their vision is. I've kind of got a vision for Kit Carson Park, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We had kind of a vision for accessibility at Kit Carson. The grandstand is a total another deal. I mean, we have money set aside, perhaps not enough to do both this year, and maybe roll it over into next. The Kit Carson is doable. Grandstand's going to be it'll be a wonderful amenity when it's done. It'll be an awesome place
Right.
when it's finished, but it's going to take a while and it's going to take some investment.
That's all I have.
I want to compliment Tom and the city staff and stuff like this for going to all these meetings to get all this training and see what the towns and communities are doing. I know as I'm kind of disabled, I'm not kind of, but I am, and sometimes it's pretty hard for me to walk and get around, so, but I feel lucky because I'm not in a wheelchair. But it's most important to me to see that the city, Mr. Beach and the staff is working for this problem and trying to get things done. So I thank you as and the staff. Thank you.
Are there any items that we need to redo due to the changes in the building code that you mentioned in the article that you?
No, not really. The changes that were spoken about at the conference were not so much building code as they were ANSI, American National Safety Institute kind of thing, where instead of 60-inch bathroom clearances, they're proposing 67-inch bathrooms or 65-inch. You know, that's just one example. They are not in the building code yet per se. They may not come until what we just adopt 2018, maybe 2021, 2025 before they come in. But they're like the PROAG, the pedestrian right-of-way accessibility guidelines, and that's what they are. They're not ADA guidelines, they're just pedestrian right-of-way guidelines. Those are suggestions. A lot of municipalities, Kansas City for one, has adopted those PROAG guidelines. They provide a little bit wider sidewalk. It's going to come about eventually, but they've been saying that for 15 years, so it may be another 10 years before they're adopted. It could be 2 years. It doesn't look like it, but it'd probably be more like 10. So there's really nothing to be worried about at this point.
You know, in the case that, you know, we do something and we update something and 2 years down the road, they decide, well, it's got to be bigger and wider and better.
It's at the time of construction.
Okay. You mentioned in there, says explain how the DOJ proceeds the settlement agreement. What was that?
Oh, that's which part? Was that the beginning or was that towards the end? No, that was just the one class. That was interesting. With the 2 lawyers from DOJ, that was very important. The one lady that was teaching was in a chair, had been her whole life, and she was a lawyer for the DOJ, so she saw it from both sides of the table. They were very understanding for municipalities and Title II or III entities, but yet they were very adamant that it was the law of the land, and it will be enforced as that.
And you mentioned, it mentioned also in there that the infeasible clause, and it's so difficult to prove. I'm not sure that might be something that you answered probably the question.
Very similar, yeah.
Similar,
Yeah.
what I was talking
I
about.
mean, they won't, you can't use it's gonna cost too much. That does not work. It's not an excuse.
Okay. Any other questions?
Did they mention if there's any other types of federal funding sources to help accommodate with any of these types of mandates?
There really aren't. There really aren't. Federal stuff. You know, the highway projects and stuff like that, you know, could do, but that's state, it's not really federal. But there really aren't any federal granting agencies that come in for ADA stuff.
And did you find that there were other people from other communities at this symposium that were only ADA, staff members, or did a lot of them like you wear multiple hats?
Everybody wore multiple hats. Every one of them. There was not a soul I talked to, it was a specific ADA coordinator, that was their own job. There were ones that were involved with HR, there were ones involved with Parks and Rec, there was ones that involved, hoteliers that were there as Title III with public accommodations. Everybody had a different hat.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Again, if any questions, please don't hesitate to call.
Thank you, Tony.
On to item 3B, the NPGA update, Mr. Valentine.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Just kind of an update. I know over the last 9 months to a year, I've been reporting back and forth that NPGA was like up in arms, going to switch to Kansas Municipal Energy, back and forth. Well, as Greg reported at the last meeting, unanimously voted to stay with MPGA. So it was kind of a shock to me because leading up to it, I thought, okay, we're going to have to think about changing or going there. But so they stayed with MPGA. What that did is it opened up opportunity for them to go after what's called a prepay gas agreement. On July 10th, we had a conference call meeting, MPGA board, and they elected to participate with PEAK, which is Public Energy Authority of Kentucky, to enter into a municipal gas prepayment transaction. And what happens there is PEAK actually sells tax-exempt bonds to fund gas purchases through BP, British Petroleum. So they're going with that, and the agreement is a 30-year agreement. We were hesitant when we heard it, but it is with NPGA and PEAK Energy. So the cities are involved in that. We have to have a resolution drafted that says we are a qualified municipal gas distributor, and we'll be certifying that we own and operate a municipal gas, natural gas distribution system, and we're authorized to purchase, distribute, and manage the gas supplies. Other than that, what it is right now they're saying we're going to save 20 cents per unit on the index cost, guaranteed. What they told us, if they were able to go to the bond market today, we'd save 33 to 38 cents, depending. Kind of like what ARPA was doing with their bonds. Same type of situation. So I just wanted to bring you a little bit up to date on that.
Quick question, when you say 30-year contract, is it completely variable or does it block out with escalators, the price?
It blocks out, and we could opt in or opt out, depending on.
Good.
Yes.
We talked about that 5 years ago. And
Yep.
yeah, good.
So.
Another thing that helps us is it's only 17% of the gas.
Right. This portion of the gas that they're going to get from BP is 70% of their portfolio. The rest is either fixed costs or they're out on the market hedging, or they're always looking for the best deal. So it's like 17%.
Questions, Mr. Martin? Here?
I asked the one I had.
So reduce in cost.
Eventually, we hope,
customer.
we hope to. Part of the strategy is to reduce the cost of gas so we can get more people, members of MPGA, and then reduce the overall cost. So,
Good.
yes, that is the goal,
Good.
Okay, thank you.
though. Thank you.
Item 4, petitions or communications are all written. Can you check to see if have anybody signed up? David Walker? Is he here?
Sir, I'm interested in
Come forward, please.
grant application that is supposed to be dealt with later.
I'm not
Okay.
sure.
The marijuana.
Oh, okay.
You meant the $25,000
Yeah,
grant.
I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So you're waiting for that item to come up in the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, then, thank you. Sonny Leone?
Mayor, members of council, city manager, got a good clock.
I'm good. You got 5 minutes, sir.
What I'm here tonight to talk about is a little bit about the water. I think everybody's had water on their mind since we went into level 3. One of the things I wondered is, in 2017, Pate Construction did your last job on Cedar Street. When they did that job, you had a well down there. It was a city well. It had a meter in it. And people that wanted to get water for their cows, construction projects, or whatever, instead of using city water, they went there and picked it up at that well. There was a meter in there. And it went according to how honest you were. You went down there and got 1,000 gallons, you put in there, marked it on a tablet, put 1,000 gallons, it was metered. So in 2017, when you let that job out, that well disappeared. But it was in on the project. And what it did is you brought a brand new line up to the corner of Chestnut and Elm. And you were supposed to put a card reader in there. And evidently, from the information that I can get through City Hall, is the card reader was going to cost you $90,000. You didn't know how you were going to recoup that $90,000. So the pipe's up there, and everything's there, but there's no way to get water. What I wanted to ask, I know you didn't answer. So, don't you think that that would be a better way to get water to these people that are watering their cows, watering the illegal grows in the city and out of the city? Because you got thousands of gallons of water going every day. The project here on I-25 that's just finishing up used probably 60,000 gallons of water. They would go to the well when they were here before, couldn't go to the well, had to go to a water station. In my opinion, $90,000, what do you consider you have to pay for treated water that you're selling? You're selling treated water when you could have a well. You could do it the same way you did before. That's all you gotta do is bring up a pipe, bring it across, have a meter in there, and depend on the people to be honest. That's one of my main reasons that I was here tonight. I was worked on that project and I know everything underneath the ground is there. I went and talked to Mike here a while back, Mike Valentine, and he said, yeah, everything is there. In my business, I have a tendency to haul concrete in different places in southeastern Colorado, east of Trinidad. On one occasion when I had a blowed out tire, that particular occasion, we were short-handed, so I went down with one other guy to change a front tire. In a matter of 3 hours, there was 14,000 gallons of water past me, with 1,000 gallons at a time. When I talked to the farmer who was down there, I said, where's this going? He said, see that illegal grow down there? That's where it's going. We're supplying water all over. I don't know what you do about that. I don't have an answer for that particular thing. But if you could put that well in, if you put that well in, put it the way it was before, if you can't afford a $90,000 card reader, I think you'd be a whole lot better off with giving people water. I have people approaching me all the time. They want water for their cows. They want water. I'm not in the water business. In my opinion also, for instance, where Mr. Matei's mother used to live, in a 500 feet area, you got 13 patches on a water line. 13, go up there, you could play checkers on the highway. My opinion, instead of each one of them water lines being fixed, why don't you put a section in there? When you have it break, put a section in. I think that water is very important. Mr. Bonato's mentioned that for years here. And I think it's very important for everybody here. I think instead of worrying about buying Fisher's Peak and making some kind of a commitment for Fisher's Peak, we should have our water infrastructure taken care of. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Murphy?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I just want to let you know I've already had one phone call asking if I was streaming the meeting tonight live, and I'm not doing that anymore. I'm finally, about 6 months late, getting ready to put the website up and have the closed captioning, the time stamping and everything. We'll get back to doing it live. YouTube has said that they're going to have live closed captioning, but the way I understand that it works is they say that it's coming that maybe a month and maybe 6 months. I'd heard 6 months ago that it was right around the corner. So I will let you know the website name and everything. I just don't want to, part of it is ADA. We don't want to put something up there and then be not in compliance, and that's what this is about. And like I said, I'm about 6 months late, but I wanted to make sure that I did this right. I had some issues personally and professionally, some technical issues, the audio and a few other things that I wanted to make sure were good. So if people are asking you, it's going to be optimistically a couple of days, I'm going to say by next week, that they'll be able to go and find the meetings and be able to find all this. So, but it's going to be great when it's done. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Item 5, the consent agenda. Item 5A, approval of the regular meeting minutes of July the 13th, 2018. Item B, approval of special events permit application, malt vinous and spirituous, filed by Trinidadio's Blues Fest, incorporated doing business as Trinidadio at 700 Smith on August the 25th, 2018. Is there a representative present? Okay. Item C, appointment of Linda Hudson to the Urban Forestry Board. Ms. Hudson, are you in the audience? She's here. By the way, she has been vetted by the Urban Forestry Board and has recommended her. Item D, approval of bid award to Custom Truck One Source Equipment in the amount of $218,350 for a 2018 insulated bucket truck for Power and Light Department. Item E, approval of the bills. Item F, approval of payroll, July 14th, 2018 to July the 27th, 2018. Can I have someone call for a motion to approve, please?
I make a motion to approve.
Second. Second. Any further discussion?
I just have one question, Mr. Rico, on 5D and the approval of the bucket truck. I know it's very important for us to keep our employees safe, and especially in a bucket truck. But I just wanted to ask Mr. Valentine if those other trucks, have they been inspected regularly as far as the hydraulics and everything? Because I know before we used to send them out and they'd come down or whatever and check the hydraulics and everything. And my main concern, those trucks are getting so old that, and being a mechanic like I was in my life there, and there was that, those hydraulics are very, very scary things, and we have to keep them updated. So my question to you, do they keep inspecting the older trucks?
Excuse me, before we get involved in a discussion, what we're considering, I think, is the consent agenda, and it would be my suggestion to remove that item to later so that we can have this discussion.
Oh, okay.
And it makes sense to me to have a discussion about spending $218,000 for a truck, but yet we're gonna have a discussion about $25,000 for a slab of concrete at golf course.
Okay. No, that's fine,
Okay.
good idea.
Good questions, good point, and I concur with your idea. I'm just thinking that right now what we need to do is approve the consent agenda absent this
Okay.
point,
That's
and then we
fine.
can come back with.
Do you wanna move that over?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, can I have, we have a motion and a second,
Mr. Mayor,
but we need to move that one over.
I just have one small correction to the minutes. During the tourism board meeting last month, we discussed contracts with KRDO and KCRT, that the minutes suggest that we entered into a contract and we have not.
Okay,
Okay.
so need that correction. So we would like to take item D. Let's move that over. After this is done, we will move that over to 7, which is unfinished business, right? Within that area, we'll just discuss that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
we should just do an amended motion to remove that.
okay, could I have an amended motion to remove,
Eight.
item D?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
call the vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and get into then item D and have some discussion. So approval of the bid award to Custom Truck One Source Equipment in the amount of $218,350.
We have to vote on this, please.
We already voted on that. Was
Well, you voted on the amendment. now
let's
you
call the
gotta
vote
vote
then
on-
for the entire agenda, consent agenda. Call the vote, please.
Yes, go.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes, with the exception of item B, I will abstain from this.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to item D, which is on the consent agenda, which is approval of bid award to Custom Truck One Source Equipment in the amount of $218,350 for 2018 insulated truck, bucket truck for power and light department. Can I have a motion, please?
So,
Second,
Second.
discussion. Mr. Menard, you have some questions?
well, just a repeat question I had for Michael, like I say, I just wanna keep our guys safe and, these trucks are very old and they're touchy and hydraulics are very touchy and that's just what I wanted to know, if they're inspected a lot.
Sure. So, we certify them every year. The way we do that is we join up with ARPA, because every ARPA community has trucks, so we get a better price, and every year they're certified for, so that they're grounded, because they're working on electrical. The hydraulics are tested and certified, and 2 times over the last 3 years, we've had to send trucks off to get them repaired. They are certified safe, but as you can see, our newest truck is a 2003. They don't have a lot of miles, but they do have a lot of hours in the bucket, so, yes, it's our most of the time. We wanna send them home to their wives and family every night.
That's right, and I agree with you 100%. Is there any other way that we could have like a rental agreement or, something like that for these trucks? I mean, $218,000, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money for a life. So is there any other action we could take forward that?
We've looked at, like a lease purchase agreement where we rotate them out. We've weighed that, we can definitely do that. I wanna bring this fleet up to date, and it's gonna take a while. This is a big hit to the department budget, It was budgeted, and as you noticed in my memo to you, it's a 300-day turnaround on these trucks. They don't just have them on the lot, they have to build them, so.
You know more about that stuff than I do, but, so with your consideration would be, would probably be, how I would.
I just did a quick calculation on $218,000 divided by the 15 years, say that we're gonna get the same amount of usage. That's $14,533 a year. That's pretty, you couldn't rent a truck like
Okay.
that.
All right, okay.
Good job, Ken.
Really?
Mr. Goodall, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I just had one short one. It says they're only gonna hold the price for 90 days because of steel tariffs, but we are locking into that even though we're not getting it delivered.
That is correct.
Okay.
It is based on your
There's no
approval
escalation.
tonight. We'll get a hold of them tomorrow.
Okay.
We're locked in.
So with that 300-day delivery provision, it says the funds will not be expended until 2019. Do we have to pay in full right away, or?
No,
So
on
does that mean
delivery.
that we can maybe also allocate some funding from 2019's budget towards this as well to alleviate some of Power and Light's budget for 2018?
Actually, our finance director says we expend the funds when we take delivery. So what will happen is we'll roll this into next year's budget. We won't expend it this year. We'll
Just
budget for
hold
it
up for
next
it?
year.
So it'll actually save a little bit then towards 2019's, potentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Karen, mathematician.
Yes. I have no questions.
Anthony.
I'm happy that we pulled this out to talk about it, thank you.
Okay.
You bet.
The one question I have on that is there any additional equipment that needs to be added to this by another source? We ran into that with, I think, some of the other purchases that we've had in the past. This is complete.
This is complete. The way we spec'd it out, it is a Freightliner truck that they take, bring it to the people who put the toolboxes and the bucket lift and everything, the Versa lift. And once it's all said and done, it's a complete truck. It's ours. No, there will be seat covers maybe.
Seats.
Yeah, seat covers.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, call for vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Riego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. We have no unfinished business other than the last item. Item 8 is the miscellaneous business. Item 8, consideration of the Trinidad Golf Course Association request for $25,000 for a cement slab on the south side of the clubhouse. Could I have someone to call for a motion on that item, please?
I make a motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Mr. Matei.
This is, I understand, is separate from the plan to cover the swimming pool. Yes.
This is covering the swimming
On the south side?
That's the north.
It's the north side.
That's a miss, has to be a misprint.
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay. If you want to understand, I think let's go away.
That was my understanding. It is on the north side.
It is on the
of the lot.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Question answered?
Karen?
I have concerns about this $25,000 for this slab. I went up and looked in the back area of the golf course, the clubhouse. There's no maintenance whatsoever on the backside. I mean, not even to pick up trash. And I understand that that's our asset, we have to keep it maintained. But you listen to the figures that were given to us when Mr. Plant made his presentation. $15,000 gross for a restaurant of that size in 1 year. If we didn't give them free utilities, free rent and everything else, they wouldn't be in business. I think what they need to do instead of expending this money, first of all, we don't know what part of the budget this money is coming out of. Number two, I say let's wait a year. They're using the inside facility for smaller events. Events that are $200 or $300. We're putting this money out at the end of the season when outside events aren't going to be held. I say, let's wait, let them make that presentation with the true cost of what it's going to cost to do that. And let's wait till next year to do this.
Mr. Lopez.
That is a good point, you know, especially this time of the year. My point is that if they do not have maybe a successful fall to try to acquire some more revenues from this potential concrete slab, that's definitely going to be putting this potential lease back in our hands. And then as a city, we are going to have to be running our own golf course, potentially. And then we're probably going to be spending those monies later to have the same thing done again for us, for our own Parks and Rec department, where we can have a venue to where we can provide you know, weddings or wakes or whatever other kind of receptions that we have at our own facility. In my opinion, it's either we do it now while we have the funds, or we do it later when we don't know where the funds are going to be.
Where are the funds coming from?
They're coming from CIP
But that's listed in the memo.
or capital improvements.
I don't agree with your conclusion, Mr. Lopez, because I've had several events up there that have housed 300 people easily. And that establishment has been was a successful business when it was owned and operated by one family. They made a lot of money up there, and they didn't ever have to use that back area. I say we have to have some kind of accountability for the golf association to show to us that they are good stewards of that asset that we have. And I think they have a year to prove that they can make that into a special events venue. I can't see spending anywhere now.
I'm curious what the payback is on a $25,000 cement slab. I mean, how many wedding guests do you have to charge X dollars to get your money back? I mean, do people really have outdoor weddings anymore in the summertime? It's 90 degrees. I mean, are people dancing on top of swimming pools? I don't really get that. I don't get how good an attraction that really is. I mean, I would rather be indoors, frankly, or in the shade somewhere. So I tend to, well, I guess I'll vote when I vote.
Mr. Goodall.
So I think we asked them to come up with a plan for capital expenditures. I think they did. They come in, they made a proposal. We asked, Mr. Sun asked for them to find ways to make money and help offset. I think that for them looking for events on their patio is what they've come back with. I've been up and looked at it also, and I think it's time to move forward with this as they requested and put this expenditure behind us, and I think they've done everything we've asked. That's all I got.
Mr. Bernard.
One thing that really bothers me about when people come to the city and ask for money, do I see anybody of the golf association here, the board? Anybody from the board? Nobody. And that's what kind of bothers me, you know? You're coming to the city, you're asking for $25,000, like it's 25 cents, but yet you don't have a representative out there to come up to this podium and kind of answer maybe Mrs. Griego's questions that she had, or something like that. I've been a positive go-getter for the golf course ever since I sat on this council. But $25,000, how big, maybe Mr. Leone can answer this question, how big is this swimming pool to hold $25,000 worth of concrete? I don't know. You know, it's a part of me that you know, I like the golf course, I'll do anything for the golf course, but when I don't see nobody out there to come to this podium and speak what they want to speak and answer this council's question, it kind of bothers me. So that's all I have to say.
I think at the very least, if council's in agreement to who it is, I think at the very least we need to ask for a valid estimate. If that pad is worth $25,000, I'm quitting insurance tomorrow and going into cement.
Son, you'll get
Mr.
the job.
Mitchell, how big of a pad were they requesting?
Gee.
I recall it being like 30 by 30 feet, is that?
Like
That's
900 square feet? Mr. Leone, calculate that real quick for us, how many yards of concrete would that take with 6 inches thick?
What do you need, Karen?
What's the dimensions?
30 by 30, about 6 inches deep.
25 by 30?
30 by 30.
So 900 square
That's
feet.
900 square feet, you get about 58.6 square feet per yard, that's 6 inches thick.
Okay. So
There
calculate,
ain't no $25,000 worth of concrete in that kind of stuff.
that's my point, right there.
Not even if you put fiber and rebar and doubled it up. But there is, if that was an old swimming pool, you're probably gonna have to do and Mike would probably go along with that, you probably have to do some kind of a soil analysis to make sure what's under there before you put the slab on top. We did the one when they closed up, the one over here where Carlos is. When they closed that up, we did all that work over there. We had to dowel everything in to make the slab stay up. We filled it in first and then we doweled it. But it was a lot bigger than what you're talking about here.
No, the swimming pool is filled already, and if you look at there's cement back there already. So I remember that swimming pool when I was younger, and what's there now is not the dimensions of the swimming pool. So they did fill on it already.
And it seems to me like council is pretty unclear as to whether to move forward with this or not. I'm not sure what your
I have
thoughts
one
are.
more question,
Go
but
right
I
ahead.
may move to table.
Sure.
But we can just take a vote on that. When I read the memo, it said that we had a discussion about the possibility of some of the money that is spent on hole number 5 was going to be spent on the capital allocation. And then the response back was, oh no, hole number 5 was way before that lease. I just don't remember it that way. Does anyone else in the audience know? I mean, it predated you, Mr. Son. Mr. Downs?
It rings a bell.
That they did, was in the works way before we signed the agreement?
That's my
The new
recollection.
lease?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna move that we table it, maybe we can clarify that, we can have some of your questions answered and some of Mr. Leone's.
So do you make a motion to that?
Make a motion that we table this until we can talk to somebody from the.
And have a representative here, please.
Second, please.
You know?
Second. Okay. Any other discussion on the table? None, call the vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes,
Rico.
Yes. Item 8B, consideration of Trinidad Police Department drone policy. Call for a motion, please.
I move that we consider the Trinidad Police Department drone policy.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Guess you want to put the same what's going on with that?
I do. The drone policy changed slightly based on what we gave to JAG, so I'm gonna hand it out, highlighted, 2 lines, so we can have it be correct. Highlighted on the second page. Okay, so on the second page, what we did was we gave JAG the first drone policy, and we agreed to log. The 2 items you see highlighted on the second page were in that log. And when Kim redid the policy, she took those out. Today, we looked at it and added those back in, because we did agree to put those in the logs. So that's it. That's the only change we made.
Is there any question? Do you have anything else on that?
I do. So in the council communications, there might have been a little confusion here. I have to submit all the information to JAG to get the funding, and it has to be done by Friday. There's a piece of this that actually says council or local government has to approve of acquiring a drone for law enforcement. So that's also a piece of this. It's not just the policy. And that would have been in your packets. I don't know if everybody saw that or not, but that's part of it. So it's two separate things, the policy and then the approval by council for actually owning a drone for law enforcement.
Anything else?
Do you have any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Matei?
Nope.
No, I have none.
Will this device be able to be shared with other entities like the fire department or ambulatory districts, things like that?
Yes, so the fire department was listed and the sheriff's department was also listed. If they need a drone technology, law enforcement then can have pilots for that. Actually, the fire department has listed a pilot, so they would also have a pilot that could man it.
So, yeah, understanding that if the fire department uses it, that's a city entity, that certainly makes sense. If the county has access to it, are they gonna commit financially to its purchase and so forth and maintenance?
They would not, but we're actually not committing financially to it either. The funding is through JAG.
I got you.
So we did agree in our application to provide mutual aid though if they needed it
All right,
at the county level.
thank you.
And would it be one drone or 2, 3?
It's one. We applied for one. We applied for the funding for one. The information that will go to the federal government, which that's what part of this is, lists one drone. So
Not that it's permanent, but which drone you looking at?
it's a FLIR, right? Is that how you say it? So it's a I don't really know a whole lot about them, but it seems to be what law enforcement likes to use.
Cool.
So.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, if I may, you know, when I was in Fort Carson one day and the chief of police from Fountain was there and they obtained a drone and he was talking about how good they were and stuff like that toward me. And he was telling me that they have smaller drones too that go in houses and stuff like that. Is that the kind of drone we're looking at? Or are we looking at just a whole outside deal like that, nothing that goes in?
No, and you can't don't go inside houses with them. There are private.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what he said. That's
That
all,
would be
guys. You asked him.
That's right.
He said that we discovered voluntarily.
That's right.
So the policy does have to follow the FAA or the federal government's guidelines.
As long as it,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so privacy is a big part of that. When you're out in public, you don't really have that kind of privacy. But this policy for law enforcement, they will follow. They will document each time that that drone goes out, what happened, how it was used, and they'll actually get rid of any materials that aren't relevant to the situation. So.
You know, the question that I had is, you know, the uses that, very limited use, it says incidents involving violent felony suspects. Or the other one is incidents involving persons who pose a risk of serious bodily injury or death to themselves or others. My question is, will this be able to be used for surveillance of possible illegal activity?
Yes, so when we requested the funding from the JAG board, they initially denied it because we didn't prove that we had extraordinary circumstances. We do have extraordinary circumstances, it's the terrain. So what we will do is, and actually Jay might have more to say about this, but we will surveil areas that are heavily vegetated and it's not safe for officers to go into. Dan Duran actually helped me the second time around and he came up with some incidents where they had to go into areas that it was very dangerous. They actually had a man that was 3 feet away from them and he had had a gun earlier. So that's how we will surveil with it and keep the officers safe until we know what the situation is.
You know, one of the questions that comes up constantly that I've heard numerous times is, you know, we do know that there are illegal marijuana grows going on in town. Is that off limits?
I don't think we can surveil for that. I think that if you read what they want you to use it for, it needs to be an incident. It needs to be something that's happening. I don't believe we can just flag grows that we believe are illegal.
Like we basically have to follow the Constitution.
Okay.
So that,
Exactly.
Another good answer. You don't need me.
The reason why I bring that up is because people hear that we have a drone, they're probably gonna ask that question, well, why aren't they using it for that purpose?
3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I
Any
was
other
home
questions?
and Mike, I'm asking.
Sure.
3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a drone in my backyard. I'm sitting in the backyard and there's a drone looking at me. I said, what the hell's going on here? And I don't know what's going on. Were they looking for me? Here I am.
I think it was Mike Valentine.
No, it was Mr. Sun, I knew it was. Because I caught him when I came down and he had the controller.
For our surveillance purposes and other things, we would have to have, an order from a judge, same as a search warrant, in order for us to do certain types of surveillance, so unless we have that, we can't, so.
And if it helps, I'm happy to email you, what the state of Colorado requires, and we basically defer to the federal government and the FAA for any requirements. I can email that if that helps. I'm happy to do that, if anybody wants
Council
to
like
read
that
that.
information? Okay,
All right. I'll do that.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With no further discussion, call vote please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Smiles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item C, make it simple here. Can I have a motion for item C?
Make a motion for a resolution authorizing expenditures of marijuana revenue received by the city of Trinidad.
Second,
Second.
discussion. Okay,
Here to listen.
okay.
I don't know.
Sorry, you need to approve the policy and the acquisition.
So, what we did is we approved the policy
The
there.
policy, and now you have to approve the acquisition of the equipment.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I make a motion to, approve the policy.
Well, you're not purchasing it, so you're just
Approve the acquisition.
accepting the
The
acquisition.
The acquisition.
Second, please.
Second.
Any discussion on that? None, call vote please.
Benado,
Support.
Yeah. Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Smiles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. We're still on item C then as well, so I guess. Ready?
Yes. Good evening, Council, Mayor. We're here to present the second quarter marijuana 5% sales tax allocation. In your council communication, I informed you that through second quarter, actually through May 2018 of second quarter, we've netted $523,000 in marijuana revenue. And in addition, we collected $145,000 in the first quarter, which was greater than what was allocated in the first quarter resolution. So that gives us a total of $669,000 to allocate. We are not including the June 2018 marijuana revenue because we're collecting it as we speak. So in your packets, we put the resolution and we listed items that were discussed and recommended by the department head team. Those items net $543,000. Also in your packets, you have requests from outside agencies. Those netted $80,000, and those are for your consideration this evening. What I wanted to do is break out what we've done so far with the marijuana allocations. If you can see under column C, resolution 1514 is what you allocated the first quarter, and that came out to $165,000. Since that amount was allocated, $199,000 has been spent through June 30th. And what I've done is, of the $2.9 million that are anticipated to be received, I've implemented the policy that council also approved in April, which was the spending policy. 60% share went to city projects, 10% share went to outside funding agencies, and the remaining 30% went to reserves. So, that being said, the 60%, 60% available for city projects, it nets $1.7 million. What we've broken out, or actually city manager gave you this report the first time around, and items that aren't highlighted are items that have been discussed and asked to be added for 2018. And those items total 1.5 million. So that leaves 143,000 for the rest of the year, give or take what's approved tonight and then the third and fourth quarters. The outside funding agency would be 10% or 290,000. Since the adoption of the policy, $165,000 was allotted to outside funding agencies. You can see that in the first quarter. Second quarter are the requests that you're considering this evening. And that would leave the council with $44,000 for outside agencies through the rest of the year. So, where we are now is a resolution to approve the $543,000 for current projects, and then council's discretion for the $80,000 that have been presented to you in your packets. Once we get that, once you decide what to do, we'll fill that number in and the resolution's ready to go. Are there any questions?
Mr. Dave?
Yeah.
Here.
Well, it seems like we're not following the policy that we set up for ourselves, pay as you go. If we don't have it, you don't spend it. We're pretty slim on the outside funding, 44,000. We only have 44,500 left for 6 months.
Yes.
And so we've pretty much overspent in the first quarter, and we're on track for the same thing. It's just maybe, I mean, it's too late in the year to backtrack now. We can't change this as far as a budget, but I think maybe next year we need to maybe do our bidding processes differently and do the procedure for these outside funding sources a little bit more detail. And that's all I have to say.
Is there, oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm not clear of what you're saying, that we've overspent because
We've overspent because council at the beginning of last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we agreed that we were not going to spend unless that tax was actually collected and in an account somewhere.
we have collected, so far, we have collected $1.2 million.
But I don't follow you, and maybe it's because I'm not understanding it. But we've only got $44,000 left for 6 months of a budget that the budget is, if I'm looking at this correctly, is $199,365.
No, the budget is $290,000.
I'm just talking about the 10%.
Yes,
Okay.
290,000.
Okay, so we've already spent, if we do today.
If we do today,
we're
we'll have
so
spent
we're still
$245,000.
$20,000 over what, yeah, right?
No.
No.
299 is what we have. We will have spent 245 if this goes through tonight. Is that
Okay.
correct?
Yes,
So
which
that
will
will leave
leave
us with 44,500.
for outside funding agency through
How much?
44,000 for the third and fourth quarter of
Right.
18.
That doesn't add up.
Okay, so $290,000 is available.
Right.
So far, council's awarded 165 in the first quarter,
Follow you.
80,000 possibly in the second quarter. So 290 less those two amounts will leave 44,000 still remaining to be allocated.
Right. I'm not talking about like actual overspending. What I'm saying is we had a policy beginning of the year that we weren't going to spend. So for instance, we weren't going to spend money unless it was actually collected. So if I'm following that premise, on a budget of $290,000 at the end of the second quarter, we should have only spent $145,000. Am I wrong? See where I'm getting at?
I could see that.
Okay, so at the end of the first quarter, we're way over budget on 165. You added that 8, so we only have 44,400 for 6 months of spending when we spent that total, that large amount. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, also, because we've approved all these expenditures. But am I correct in my assumption of that, Greg? Because I thought,
Well, the 145 is if we get in money in an even basis over a 12-month period.
right, and that's what,
And that's the way you rate a budget, but that's not how the money comes in.
okay,
So, the other thing too is this policy was passed after the first of the year.
right,
And when it was passed, I told you that, it might be hard to reach those percents for the first year or two because the wants out there were far greater than what the percents in that policy were.
okay,
Like, for instance, 2 weeks ago, you approved giving $10,000 to the fire and said that's a good use of the
savings.
savings. So does that come out of the 1.7 or does that come out of your 30%?
According to this, it comes out of our 60%.
Right.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that the statement made was that would be a
Okay.
good use of that cushion.
I just think we need to start pacing ourselves.
Well, that would be good.
I guess my point is we should start pacing ourselves.
Bottom line is we've collected 1.2 million and we have 660,000 available for this quarter. What we've budgeted is 623,000. So we've actually underspent what we've collected, and that still includes the portion going into the reserve.
So with that available for outside agencies of 44,500, that's additional from the first 2 quarters. And then the next 2 quarters, we're still gonna collect, which would have, no?
44,000 is the max through the end of the year.
That's
Okay.
what I'm trying to tell
What
you.
by not spending money progressively as we go so much per quarter, I'm taking the total amount dividing by 4. What we have done is create a situation where it's first come, first served.
Right,
And for somebody who has a request in November, they may not have the resources available to them.
right.
And that's unfortunate, but at the same time, these are things that we're considering, and we, at the time we're talking about them, view them to be significant and important enough that we wanna do it.
I agree.
Man. So some of this is approved at 25,000 a year for 3 years, and some of it is one-time expenditures, correct?
Yes.
So some of this that we've approved is gonna carry for 2 more years. And some of this is,
No.
One council can't bind another one.
Yeah, the request,
Was for
an organization has the ability to request up to 3 years of 25,000, but each request stands on its own merit.
okay, I just wondered.
The only item that we have that's out there is the one for the Trinidad Youth Club that
Correct.
that was a year, and that's the only one that I could think of.
Right.
So then actually it can bind another council, because I wasn't here when that was approved and it bound over to me.
Well, no, because we stated that that organization could only get up to 3 years in a row.
I'm just
And then
making
that
it.
was
That's unnecessary complication.
Never mind.
Just like the others do, it's council. Question about the A.R. Mitchell request. I read this 3 times, and I can't tell whether they're asking for 35, 25, or 60.
25.
You got 25.
Okay, so what about the 35 in the first paragraph? It's in their grant request, something about a historical structural assessment.
35,000 for the fund assessment.
Looks like to me like 60.
Greg, you've been working on that, can you clarify?
It does look like they're asking for a whole lot more. It's not just the 25.
Well, per our ordinance, we can give more than 25.
Exactly.
That's right.
That was,
So
that was my
that's-
follow-up.
That's where it stands.
And did someone else ask for more than 25?
The only entity that would be the youth club because it was signed in as a, that's the only one.
Trinidad,
I think everybody else was asking for 25, right?
I had 25 across the board except for Triggers Baseball, which was 5,000.
Mr. Bernal, you have any questions?
I don't, right now, I mean, no.
so we got 44,000 left. I was trying to put it back in 2017 from this time going forward. Were there, what other people or what other organizations came forward after the end of July or August for funding that we could identify?
Your first allocation, I think, was in August or September, is that all right?
And I actually have those.
I don't know if we can think of anybody else that might be coming forward.
I think the only entity that we might have to consider is Hometown Holidays.
Which is pretty small.
It's very small.
It's like $3,000.
And what we're doing, seating events that bring people in during the space. I'm not entirely comfortable.
The other thing too, I think, did you say that the money that you have shown here does not include June? Or
It does not, that's correct. So we're collecting June as we speak.
Right.
If you take a look at last year, we collected 682,000 through June on the 2017 actual marijuana line. So we're gonna collect more than that for sure.
Okay.
But yeah,
So the first quarter, we were over 100,000 ahead,
yes,
and that's not even the busiest time, so we can.
exactly.
All right.
Yeah, but we're not hanging our hats on it,
Right.
but by far we will collect
Right.
well above $682,000.
All right.
And I'm kind of in agreement that, going forward, like Ms. Gray was saying, maybe just having some of the projects a lot closer next year. I think it's something we have to do. I think it's prudent that we do that.
Sure, but at the same token, if someone doesn't approach us, how are we to hold money for them when they don't approach us? But I understand the vetting process,
Right.
but at the same token, I'm looking at these entities, and they all have done very good things, and I know Fort Wooten is now trying to get their footing, which I think is a great thing for our veterans here in this community, to have their home again there at Fort Wooten. And the Mitchell Museum would be, in my opinion, it would be terrible to lose that entity to our community. For their
Sure,
historical
and that's
factors.
not, I'm not saying that we need to deny these funds. What I'm saying is, just look at the figures, they're asking for the maximum. I'd like to have a little bit more information. Okay, what does Art of Cade do with that $25,000? What is the Mitchell Museum gonna do with their $25,000? I think it's an accountability issue, and, we need the correct information to make the right judgment on these.
So we would like to have them submit a budget for
Right.
what the reason
Or
why
at
you
least
want.
for
to-
us to look at it,
Makes sense.
to see,
Makes
to
a lot of
see what.
sense.
Mr. Sun, do you not have a policy in place that you have requirements of everyone that you give money to?
Yeah, we have an application.
Okay,
The Mitchell did not, it appears.
It was a letter, and then Art of Cade.
But the other two did.
And having reread that letter from the Mitchell, you're right, Michelle,
They're
they're asking for 35 for an assessment on the building and 25 for a
additional
total of
25.
60.
I think we just need to make that clear that there's the maximum amount through, if we do approve, it would only be for 25.
Well,
so
the
I'd like to finish with Mr. Sun. So they had to provide you with minutes and what else would you require us when the Blues Fest? I mean, when
Minutes and financial reports.
minutes and financial report, you received that? Tax return?
No, it's just minutes
That's
and,
not for the marijuana.
That's exactly what you asked for at Blues Fest, that we had to bring you minutes from a meeting and a financial statement. We provide you with tax returns before that money would be released.
Right, so before it's released, they would have to provide those things.
So everyone applying here will have to provide that.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
But we don't get to see it prior to our approval.
Correct.
There's
That can be
something
part of our new vetting. We want to see that here.
First,
All right.
okay.
Any other discussion? Mr. McDay, you look like you might have a question.
well, rereading the letter from the Mitchell is,
Yeah.
I'm not appreciative of the tone of the letter. It suggests that they're trying to minimize what their request is by presenting it in two different paragraphs for two different dollar amounts. And I think it could be better worded.
Okay.
Just my opinion.
Sure, it's fine. I think the main thing is like I said, with this approval, that we just make sure that there's, the request is for 25 and not an additional 35. I make that known. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to bring up the issue of, I spoke with Kim this morning, Kim Schultz, in the Triggers request, and we've made a couple of grants to them, but there's some very specific problems that they encountered this year. Number one, hosting the baseball all-star game and having to pay for all those hotels, and also a significant loss of revenues because there were no fireworks.
Correct.
So I just want to speak out in support of that extra grant.
Yes.
And the traveling expense they had going
Yeah,
down
exactly.
to Texas or wherever.
And
So
if I may, to the point of our earlier discussion, that's very specific about what their needs are, as
Right.
compared to say, I need $25,000 to
Correct.
facilitate our opening.
Correct.
And they're
They
asking
work
for a
capacity.
lesser amount.
I'm sorry?
And they're asking for a lesser amount.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Very good. All right.
Just one further point. So 60% is allocated for city projects. With the dollar amounts that are listed on the first, on all 4 quarters, those are items that were asked to be added. Council hasn't approved them. But if this were to go through today and you approved all 4 quarters, that would leave $145,000 for the remaining of the year for city projects. The minute that goes away and it's all allocated, then you're starting to dip into the reserves. And the reserves council had approved was 30% to be put away to reserves. So I just wanted to be clear, because when the $10,000 was discussed for the spring fire, it was said, let's use reserves. So I'm letting you know right now that right now $145,000 is still available for projects, unless you decide not to fund some of those items in the 3rd and 4th quarter.
So can we make a motion to approve that with the intent like Mr. McKay says, as far as Mitchell getting less, 25,000 or whatever instead of the extra money? Do we do that?
Well, I thought we
It's
passed
in-
already
Right.
an
We already
ordinance.
have a first and a second on there, and I think we just need to note that they're only gonna get the 25,000 that's on that request that's in there.
That's what I said, what Mr. McKay said about that money, yes, okay.
And if you, I know they did not submit the required application, and they needed to do that before they got the money.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just because we approved that money does not go until they meet the requirements, all right? Okay.
And finally, to be clear, the council will specifically state what amounts that you do approve for those 4 requests. That way we can get them uploaded in the resolution and it's approved as such.
Well, I need to amend the motion to the specific dollar amounts that, the override on this for those 4 particular items.
Need a motion?
I need to amend that motion.
I make a motion to, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I'll make the motion, and then
And spell it out specifically for the items,
yes,
for each item?
yes.
No, I want you to spell it out each item.
What do you mean on child?
Well, the
So
last-
for
the
the
last
4 on the
one.
arcade, the Mitchell Museum,
Yeah, for each dollar
Fort
amount.
Wooten, and the Trinidad baseball team.
For each dollar amount.
According to dollar amount. I don't know what they're
You want
trying
you
to
to
do
say
this,
the dollar
but
amount.
they never done this
So
one.
you're gonna make a motion to approve Arlocate for that
For
amount?
25,000.
Okay, I make a motion to make, for Auto Cape for the amount of 25,000, the Mitchell Museum for 25,000, Fort Wooten for 25,000, and the Trinidad baseball triggers for 5,000.
Okay.
Am I correct?
You got it, bud.
Second,
I don't know everything, I only been here 13
Second.
years.
okay, any other discussion on those items? Call for the vote on the amendment.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes.
Excuse myself.
Okay, we need one more vote real quickly, so we need for the authorization of that revenue for the total amount. We have a first and a second on there, need to call a vote for that, please.
So the total would be 623,009.
So $623,009. Okay? Call vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
Matei.
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. We need a quick break? Yes, sir. Quick break here, please, for Michelle.
She just wanted to blow the whistle.
That's
You're saying we should have no problem with that. Hi.
One fellow veteran to another, you bet it'll serve us well.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on to item 8D. Can I have a motion for item 8D, please?
Make a motion for the Toyota of Trinidad incentive agreement extension.
Second, please. Second. Discussion. Mr. Bernard, any questions?
No, sir, I don't.
Darrell, we have some.
Sure, so this is an incentive agreement that goes back to a previous council and a previous administration, and we're recommending a few changes. We provided you with the executed amendment, and we colored in yellow where we're changing that in the proposed new amendment. It will clarify some of the language. Also, when the original agreement was conceived, we had no construction in those areas, and we were estimating what that return incentive might be. We put a cap on it of up to $200,000. You can see, I've included a copy of the check. Kip Hamden provided $359,233 toward the construction of Cedar Street. The incentive agreement would agree to give them back in new businesses, so incremental sales tax of up to $200,000. The original agreement had a cap of 5 years. We're suggesting to take away the cap and pay the incentive out. It's the investment in property, which wasn't included in this original agreement, and is often seen in economic agreements, was $12 million. $8.5 million for the Toyota, $3.5 million for Marty Feeds. I think the fact that they fronted us cash so that we could build the road and that we would be giving $200,000 back, staff is comfortable with amending the agreement. Originally, they did receive $82,000 back in a tax credit from an enterprise zone donation based on this. The original agreement also referenced some tax deductions on the federal and state tax for that year. However, deductions are a tricky thing, and those are dependent on so many other things that your taxes might be built around. I've never seen an incentive agreement that referenced a deduction which a company might be given. Tax credits all the time, but deductions not so much. I also thought when we originally drafted it, we really missed the boat on talking about getting them to commit to a certain amount of capital investment, and if we had them commit to $5 million, well, they blew it over the top with a $12 million investment. So if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to walk you through the changes.
No, I'm good.
Sure.
So have we repaid?
Not a bit yet, but we will start this year. In the fourth quarter of this year will be the first repayment toward that $200,000.
That's all right.
Okay.
Do you have any idea of increments and how long it'll take? Because I remember you said originally it was supposed to be paid off in 5 years.
Mr. England had recommended 5 years. Staff is thinking, instead of putting a year on it, we would allow it to just be paid out to the maximum amount of $200,000, and we don't have an idea of what those years will take. Certainly that will get stepped up as they open their marketplace that will be going into Marty fees.
No questions.
I thought somewhere I read on this that the payments would start once Marty Feed was generating, once that was full and generating money.
I believe it starts when Toyota begins to generate, and then the percentage, it's 50% of the sales tax that is collected off of Philong Toyota. And then after that, as one bay of Marty Feeds is rehabilitated, 75% of the Toyota sales tax and 100% of the Marty Feeds. And then once a second bay of Marty Feeds, 100% of Toyota and 100% of Marty Feeds. Now, when this was originally written, it was envisioned that Marty Feeds would still be 3 individual stores, and it's not been rehabilitated for that. So while we didn't take that away, we'll still follow that, those percentages. So we'll sit with the finance director in the fourth quarter and figure out what this year incentive would be. We're happy to report that back to you. But as you can imagine, it may take many more than 5 years to do this, and based on their capital investment, staff felt like we needed to bring it forward.
No questions? You mentioned that they had $82,000 in tax credits.
They did.
That doesn't go toward the $200,000. That's separate.
That's separate. So they'll recoup $200,000 at a maximum, as long as these businesses are open and they're generating sales tax in those buildings. And then they recouped $82,000 as part of the enterprise zone. So they would end up not recouping about $69,000, and that just remains a cash donation to the city as part of their original $359,233.
So you mentioned that I think sometime in, let's say December, that when the payout would go
In the
down,
fourth quarter.
That's when we would know how much has been paid.
We will.
And that'll give us an idea how long it might take.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We'll look at the sales tax collected this year, and we'll look at the formula, and if it's based on Toyota only, we'll do 50% of that amount back to them. Okay.
Any other questions? Call for vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Riego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item E, it's an ethics complaint filed by Councilman Goodall against Mayor Rico. Turn this over to Pro Tem Miles at this point. There you go.
It's July 17th, and I'd like to call to order the Ethics Governance Committee of the City of Trinidad. My name is Michelle Miles. I'll be the presiding officer. Mr. Goodall, Mr. Lopez, and Mr. Rico, would you care to step outside?
Sure.
First time I've wielded the gavel.
So far, so good.
All right, I guess the first thing to do is to read the complaint.
That is correct.
Is the door closed? Is the back door closed, babe?
And Mayor Pro Tem Miles, I would like to say that the reason that those 3 have left the room is because Councilman Goodall is the complaining party. The mayor is the party against whom the complaint is leveled, and Councilman Lopez is a fact witness. And so that is why all 3 of them have recused themselves, and the 4 of you remain. To read the ethics complaint, this is captioned an ethics complaint. City Council member Rusty Goodall complains and asserts as follows regarding this complaint in ethics against Mayor Phil Rico. This complaint is made according to section 2-71, paren 4, end of paren 4, end of paren, of the Trinidad Municipal Code. I swear to refer that the following facts are true and are based on my personal knowledge. Trinidad City Councilman Carlos Lopez was a candidate for the Executive Board of Directors for the Colorado Municipal League at the annual conference for the league at the June 2018 conference in Vail, Colorado. The election for this board is held every year at conference to fill the vacancies that occur each year. It is a well-known fact on the Trinidad City Council that Councilman Lopez was a candidate for the CML Executive Board. The members of City Council that attended the CML conference for 2018 were Mayor Phil Rico, Councilman Carlos Lopez, and myself, Councilman Rusty Goodall. The Trinidad City Council had stated its support for Councilman Lopez as a candidate for the CML Executive Board. It was understood that Trinidad's vote would be made for Councilman Lopez. The election for the CML Board was held on June 21, 2018 in Vail at approximately 2:15 p.m. All attendees at the conference knew when and where the election was going to be held. Member municipalities of CML all participated in the conference and in the election. Councilman Lopez and I thought that the casting of our vote was going to be very easy and uncomplicated. When we found the mayor at the place of the election, he had already obtained a ballot and had filled the ballot out without involving Councilman Lopez or myself. Councilman Lopez and I were very surprised that the mayor had already voted and had done so without involving us. I then asked to see our ballot to make sure that he had complied with the wishes of City Council in voting for Councilman Lopez and to make sure he had voted for Councilman Lopez. The mayor refused to show either of us the ballot he had filled out, telling us that he was on the policy committee for CML and they had appointed him to vote on behalf of Trinidad. I was not happy with this information, so I right away went and found Sam Mamet, the executive director of CML, and asked him his opinion about this. He told me that the governing body for Trinidad appoints a person to vote for Trinidad, or if that isn't done, to have a majority of council members present decide who we would vote for. In other words, what the mayor told me was false. So the mayor cast our ballot without us having a say in the voting or who we would vote for, and without showing us who he had voted for. The mayor deprived us of our being able to participate in the process or to make sure we knew who we were voting for and that our vote was cast for Councilman Lopez. In hiding the vote from us, he kept us in the dark as to who he or we had actually voted for, and I have serious doubts as to if he voted for Councilman Lopez. The mayor's conduct violated the Trinidad Code of Ethics, section number 4 of 2-71 of the Code of Ordinances, quote, speak with one voice, end of quote. That ordinance clearly states that each member of council should, quote, objectively present the council's collective decision or direction, even when you may not agree, period, end of quote. Also, the mayor has been asked by the council before to not act on his own, and he has been previously warned by council regarding this. The mayor too often acts without the consent of council or acts in his official capacity in matters that he doesn't make us aware of. In this instance, the mayor voted without involving Councilman Lopez and myself, it says he, but I think that means kept his vote secret, and treated the ballot and vote like it was his own function to perform, instead of including us in making sure we were involved in that decision. It is possible that the mayor did not vote for Councilman Lopez for the executive board of directors for CML, and since he refused to show either Councilman Lopez or myself the ballot that was cast. Attached to this complaint are Appendix A and Appendix B of the CML bylaws. Appendix A states that each vote cast by each participating member municipality in an election vote shall be made by the city's representative or by a majority of the representative attending the meeting. Since the city of Trinidad did not designate a representative, it should have been made by a majority of the members present. Appendix B repeats this, but it applies there to voting rules for business meetings of CML. Signed and sworn by Councilman Rusty Goodall.
Good, as I understand the procedure we're going to go through is we have a number of options as far as what to do with this. We can dismiss the charges, we can move them forward, we can move them forward with an investigator appointed, and in the case where we dismiss the charges, we could have an investigation into a possible allegation of harassment. Those are what we have to do. So, as I'm told by Mr. Downs, the best way to do this is to go through the list of escalating action, and if somebody makes that motion and somebody else seconds it, then we have a period of discussion and then vote on whether to proceed with that. If nobody seconds, it dies.
Right. And Mayor Pro Tem, I would say that the first thing for you to do is to decide if you want to dismiss the complaint. And it's an odd kind of procedural thing, but it is what is contained in the Code of Ethics. And so that is what you were supposed to do. And if there is a 3-to-1 vote to dismiss the complaint, then you can decide if you think the complaint was filed for harassment purposes. But that is the first thing for you to do.
So I'll just look for, would anyone like to move to dismiss the charges?
May I?
Yeah.
Before we have any discussion as to a course of action, I think that we have in this complaint a reference to a Code of Ethics section, number 4 of 2-71. And I think it would be beneficial.
That's a good idea.
To have that read and entered as part of the hearing, rather than referred to in the complaint.
Happy to do that, if I may.
Go ahead.
This is paragraph 4, and it actually is another subparagraph 4, but this is paragraph 4. It is captioned, "Speak with one voice." Council members will frequently be asked to explain the council action or to give their opinion about an issue as they meet and talk with constituents of the community. It is appropriate to give a brief overview of the facts or city policies as they relate to council action. Objectively present the council's collective decision or direction, even when you may not agree. If you feel the need to express your own opinion or directions, state it in terms such as, quote, "I would have preferred X, but the council wanted Y, so that's what we will be doing," end of quote. Explaining council's decisions without giving your personal criticism of the council's actions will serve to strengthen the community's image of city council. That's in paragraph 4.
I think it should also be read within the context of the framework. In the framework, section 3, accountability. You can only read a provision within the context of the framework, I believe, as I think about it. It says accountability. Assure that government is conducted openly, efficiently, equitably, and honorably in a manner that permits the citizenry to make informed judgments and hold public servants accountable. So I think the two need to be read together. But anyway, shall we move to the next step? I think we can have a discussion if you'd like to make a motion, or if we can get a motion made.
Just like with every motion.
Would anyone like to move to dismiss the charges?
I so move.
Second? I would be inclined not to second you, based on my thought, but I want to hear what your thoughts are, Mr. Ego. So I will second for the purposes of having a discussion.
Good point.
So, shall we start? Why don't we start with you, Andy?
Why not? I struggle with applying the fact situation as presented in this complaint with the definition as read by Councilor Downs. I don't think that there was a violation of what Councilor Downs read in the facts that occurred at the meeting. I think that it was frustrating to Councilman Goodall the way it was handled, but I think that it's my opinion at this time, based on what I just heard and what I've read before, that it was more a matter of being inconsiderate and selfish and stubborn, and maybe those are ethical violations, but not as it applies to that section.
The reason I motioned as I did is because when I got the original complaint, I went back and researched all the minutes from the prior meetings that we've had, city council, up to and including, I started April of 2018 and I read the minutes. And in order for this to be an ethics violation, the mayor would have to have gone against what city council voted. Never in any of those minutes were there any notification that motion was made and passed by city council. Now, suffice to say that I did sign a letter of support for Councilman Lopez. I never got a copy of that letter. That letter was never presented to council for an official motion, and therefore I feel it was, I think it's more of a miscommunication. I think just the fact that Councilman Goodall asked after the fact what the procedure was, none of them really knew ahead of time. So I don't think Mayor Rico's actions were malicious. I think it was just bad communication. And based on those facts, you know, I'm a newbie to city council, but this is one action that I'm not real happy that we're even discussing, because I think when you talk about an ethics violation, you're talking about a man's moral character, and I don't believe that Mayor Rico in this instant showed any kind of moral degradation.
Fair enough. Mr. Bonanno?
I can't really say too much about it, because I have my other one coming up in the next meeting here, but all I really have to say, I think that it's a possibility, and this is not the first time that I think that the mayor has overstepped his boundary. He has not communicated, I believe, with this council. With this situation here, I think we were all in agreement to support Carlos. We had a signature here that was brought to us, we signed it. And to do something like this and go to the back door and go to Vail or wherever we voted was absolutely wrong. What gives him the power? He don't have no more power than you, Karen, nobody else. But what gives him the power to go above council's head and try to do these things? So I do agree with Rusty. I do agree with, like I say, this is not the first time, and you'll hear another one coming up, so that's all I have to say about it.
I'll throw in my 2 cents.
Throw it in.
When I reread 402-31, I remembered how it got here. It was the Pat Fletcher clause. Basically, what we wanted people was not second-guessing each other when they went for coffee. And this had nothing to do with us all rowing with the same oar, except in the context of speaking to constituents. The idea would be we could go in different directions. Having said that, though, I think Mayor Rico knew that Mr. Lopez had the support of the majority of city council, because he couldn't have made the ballot without a majority of city council signing this petition. And they happen to know it was not unanimous, but it was a majority. So I don't know how you ignore that fact when you're casting a ballot. And while I don't think it's 4-21 or 4-2-71, I think in conjunction with the accountability provision, which talks about transparency, I think it does modify the meaning somewhat. But that's not originally what that meant. It was meant so that I couldn't say, someone said to me, Michelle, why did city council do that? I couldn't say, well, the other idiots voted for it. I didn't. You know, that was the whole idea, because that was happening a lot when we were going through marijuana, and it was very controversial. You know, so I'm torn. I'm literally torn. I'd love further discussion.
I'm sorry?
I'd love further discussion.
If I'm hearing you correctly, I think you and I are like-minded in that speaking with one voice is not particularly applicable. But I'm also hearing you say that there are a broader set of collective circumstances that cause some concern to Councilman Bonanno's point. Are we at liberty to discuss a pattern of events, or are we focused solely on this circumstance? I mean,
It shouldn't be discussed until probably the other ethical violation is solved. I mean, you could discuss the whole thing about going over our heads and having meetings and doing stuff like that, but it's not, then that takes away from the other ethical violation that I posted.
Well, and I would say that in support or in conversation or discussion regarding a motion to dismiss, perhaps not. But if that doesn't pass and you get to the next level and you are going to be discussing whether or not to verify the complaint or hold that there are sufficient facts to justify the complaint, maybe then that conversation would be more appropriate. I mean, you can do it now, I'm just saying, you're kind of narrowly focused right now on whether or not to dismiss. And so you could, if you want to thwart the notion of speaking against reasons why you're wanting to dismiss.
You know, I've never even played a lawyer on TV, so.
You're doing correct. You're doing correct.
No, I mean,
I would
isn't
like
there
to-
usually a prejudice? Let me just finish and
Go
then
ahead.
Joe, you can go right ahead. Isn't there a prejudice about bringing in extraneous facts to a current situation?
Yes,
And I don't know if it's overplayed just for television dramas.
Right. And this isn't the hearing. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt Councilman Matei. This isn't the hearing. If you guys do advance it, there will be a hearing, and there will be testimony by the three parties, and there will be argument. So really then, I think one or more of the parties may be going into exactly what Councilman Matei is suggesting here in terms of other facts. But in any event, go ahead.
Okay, that, go ahead.
Go ahead, I think he was next.
No, that's all right, I just listened to it.
That having been said, if it's our purpose to consider that broader spectrum of information, then this should move forward to a hearing.
Go ahead.
Is that an accurate assessment of what I heard you just say?
It is.
Okay.
Yep, it is. And I'm not trying to comment or chime in on what you should do or what you should not do, but that's correct.
Well,
If you,
and the reason I'm asking is, having read what having read what Councilman Goodall has written, begs several follow-up questions. Why didn't you want to show your ballot? Why was there not some communicative discussion as to why this happened? And that would cause me to think maybe more differently than I do at this moment.
right.
But based on face value of what is before us now, and isolating it to this particular event, I don't think that there's sufficient information for me to make an intelligent decision, other than to go to the next
What
level.
you're saying is he deserves a day in court.
Yes.
And the issue needs to be aired.
That everybody
I think
deserves their day in court,
I-
in that the complainant needs to be heard as to why this is before us, and that the defendant, for lack of a better way to describe it,
Sure.
Mayor Rico, needs to be heard as to why things happened the way they did.
And can we just make a motion to move on for that?
Well, you need to vote on the motion to dismiss.
No.
Well, that's what now is, there's a
Yeah, we
motion.
vote on that. If that goes down or doesn't pass with a majority, then we move on to the next
I make a
motion, which is
we
to
would
approve.
dismiss it.
Well, you already have a
There's
motion.
already one.
Right.
You already got it?
Yep. And,
So now we just take a vote.
right.
So
Okay.
she wants to dismiss it.
And I seconded just to promote discussion, and now we take a vote.
Correct.
So a no vote means we move on to the next step, and a yes vote means that it's dismissed.
Correct.
We're voting for dismissal.
If we can have, are we still at the point of discussion, or are you calling a vote?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
I think that this is a matter that bears a cleansing, for lack of a better way to describe it. It is arguably a stumbling stone for us as we move forward to do what we need to do. And for once and for all, I think we need to address it. And earlier, we had suggested this in a previous situation, that we couldn't do it. He couldn't have an executive session so that we could
That's
play
right.
right.
That's right.
But this does give us the opportunity to do that, where everyone can say what's on their mind in full view of complete transparency of what we're all about. And I think that would be
And to do it in a
wholesome and healthy.
dispassionate way.
That would be wholesome and healthy for what we're trying to accomplish as a group of 7.
I just wish the discussion would have happened prior to this hearing. That's the
I
appropriate.
couldn't agree with you more.
Well, I think we all believe
There
that.
still is a chance for that.
Do you want to call the vote?
All right, we're gonna call for a vote.
And the vote is whether to dismiss.
Correct.
Question is whether to dismiss. So a yes vote is for dismissal, a no vote is to move to the next motion, which would possibly refer it on. That could end up losing too, and I don't know, we're dealing with ping pong tables, but probably not. So, roll call?
Benado,
No.
Griego,
Yes.
Matei,
No.
Miles.
No.
Okay, so the motion to dismiss did not pass.
Next on the list,
Listen,
You're moving on.
we're moving on to the next vote. We have to have an affirmative vote to actually
Go ahead.
refer the complaint forward. Okay, so the second level is if the complaint is not dismissed, entertain a motion to see if the board is of the opinion that there are facts sufficient to sustain or verify the complaint. If this passes, set the matter for hearing for one of our two city council meeting dates in August, the 7th or the 21st.
Although I would like to say that if you do vote to move this on, the next item of business should be discussion as to whether or not you think an investigation is necessary.
Yeah.
I have these kind of out of order. I thought it didn't really matter, but if you would please, if it goes further, then the
Still
next
have
item
more work to
would
do.
be, that's right. And that's only if there's a majority vote to move it on.
Okay, do we have a motion to push the complaint forward to see if there are facts sufficient to sustain or verify the complaint?
yeah.
Mr. Bernardo moved, we have a second.
Wait, read that again, please.
The question is, we have to vote affirmatively
I
and
got it.
move the complaint forward. I'll read it to you again. If the complaint is not dismissed, entertain a motion to see if the board is of the opinion that there are facts sufficient to sustain or verify the complaint. If this passes, then we set the matter for hearing and then discuss whether we need an investigation.
Having read the complete thing, I would second Councilman Bernardo.
Okay. Discussion. Let's start with him this time. Okay. Let's start with
The
you.
reason, when first you read the first part of that motion, which you made, my point is, and in support of this motion, is that I think there should be a hearing so that we can listen to what happened and what didn't happen and why that occurred, and come to a cleansing, for lack of a better way, and I've said that twice, a cleansing of relationships amongst us. I don't think that it's necessary that we need an investigator or some big sleuth, cloak and dagger kind of routine here. I think we need to have, and I'm hoping that a hearing will create a set of circumstances and a situation where everyone will have the opportunity to present their opinions, and there can be a meeting of minds.
Mr. Sun, did you have something to add?
Yeah, all it just says here is you have to consider a motion saying there are sufficient facts to verify the complaint. And then you have to make a general statement of the applicable provisions as determined by the Board of Ethics.
Right, that's what referring it forward is. So that has to go in writing within 5 days or 10 days, I think? 5 days.
Within 10 days, it has to be forwarded to the accused.
Right, he gets a copy of the verified
And
complaint.
who does that? How does that work?
That can be, the presentment of that can be done by any staff member. I can do that. I mean, he already has it, he already knows, but formally to be presented with a copy of the complaint. And I do think that refers to, in your discussion, if you do, as you're discussing whether or not there were sufficient facts, to determine what provisions of the ethics code were violated. So you have the complaint, you have the, as you mentioned, Mayor Pro Tem, the other, you said the framework of paragraph 3. But anyway, so there should be just a citation of what you say, those facts violated in the ethics code.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
I think as Councilor Downs,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think as Councilor Downs has just recited, not so much is there a substantive amount of facts as there is a substantive amount of question. that needs to be clarified. I'm interested to hear why things happened the way they happened. I'm not saying that the facts presented in and of themselves say this violation occurred, because I don't believe it did. But it, in my mind, creates a set of circumstances where I'm interested in knowing why this happened the way it did. And maybe nobody really knew that if, in the absence of us collectively deciding how our vote was going to be cast, that those present had to do that, and then it's kind of after the fact knowledge, which does us no good, and it's got everybody's rubber band tight.
Exactly. The thing I keep coming back to is that it was obvious that the majority of council wanted to vote for it, so that was.
It was obvious to the people that got to see a full signed document. When I signed that document, there were a couple of spaces, and I never got, whenever all the signatures were collected, I never saw the final document.
I think if I were in the mayor's shoes, I would have done a little bit of due diligence. So I hear you, but it was clear on that night, a discussion was had that all it would take would be a majority of council to get nominated. And I didn't see that written out, I didn't see the formal document, but I think it'd be hard to say that it wasn't worth finding out.
For the sake of closure, we need to just get on with this.
Well, I agree with you. We're still in the discussion period. Is everybody ready to move on? All right, so we have a motion and a second. It was Mr. Donato and Mr. Matei. Roll call.
Donato?
Yes.
Griego?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Miles?
Yes. All right, the next step is that we have to pick a date for the meeting to be referred.
The investigator first, if you would, please. I know there was some discussion, just whether or not.
Fair enough.
And if I could, I think that the Councilman Matei is absolutely correct. And I think the facts as alleged by one side or another, the parties can kind of lay out their version of the facts and make arguments. So I don't think an investigator in terms of a fact finder to assist this tribunal is necessary. My recommendation is just what I would say.
All right, so we're going to set the matter for a hearing, but first I want to hear from everyone. Is there a motion to appoint an investigator?
There's
Nobody moves it, it's dead.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if that would be.
Good, all right, so now we're moving on to the next thing, which is selection of a meeting date. This is not fun.
I'm glad you're in.
So now we select a meeting date. It's either going to be the 7th or the 21st.
Correct.
And what's...
The sooner the better.
I think the sooner the better,
That's
unless
right.
they request more time. I don't think it's necessary though.
Right. The 7th is fine. There was discussion later on in the ethics code about 30 days, but that's other provisions. It doesn't apply here. So I think August 7th is fine. Do you agree, Roger?
I'm just looking at the calendar.
Okay.
All right.
Just a sec, we're making sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it'd be fine if you're going to send it out right away.
Okay. I will do that.
All right, so the next step is that the complaint should be sent out within 10 days.
Correct.
Now, does that give us enough time for the 7th? I assume it does.
It
But
does.
you'll get it out
It
before
does.
then, I hope?
Right, I can get a copy of the complaint to the mayor tomorrow.
On the 7th, right, Michelle?
August 7th, yeah. And that will be at the regular meeting. And I think that concludes this matter. So I guess I gavel out the ethics board meeting and we're ready to move on.
Are we in recess?
Do you want to take a break?
I do take a break.
Sure, take that.
Good there. Okay. 5 minutes?
No, we have.
Oh. There wasn't a vote to set the hearing.
Oh. Well, we said as soon as
Okay, yeah,
possible,
as soon as you guys
all
have
of us
done.
agreed, so.
Okay.
Yeah, just tell the people out that we have to vote on one small matter.
No.
Yeah, me too.
Do you want it tonight? Then I'll just email it to you. So you'll have it. Thank you.
Do you want your copy back?
Or I just want a copy of this. Just for my kids and file and then we'll, you need the original, I just need a copy of the executed. I'll draw on our, the one file.
Because I actually, I'm very dear friend of mine.
I think I've done.
She wrote, it's actually she's an acid reflux, and she's called dropping acid. And there's some surprising things, like for foods that you don't get very acidic.
Cook for himself. I had dental surgery a couple of weeks ago.
Again?
Yeah, and 3 months. Yeah, but, so I like them, they're just foods like cream and stuff, so I'm not happy. I don't know what happened.
5.5 hours. Or she did 5 hours
For
of
re-election.
Oh, Pat Fletcher?
Yeah, she's here all the
No,
time.
There's a lot of deer.
I'm gonna go so fast I'll just fly over.
Spray some oil on the front of your car.
That's right. Phone, would you call shotgun? No, I'm
Greg does drive a little fast. That's all I'm gonna say.
Who's driving tomorrow?
Sounds like Greg is.
Go down to Safeway and get you guys some noodles.
What? It won't be open.
They're leaving at 4.
Where you
They'll be
going?
open.
Or 10.
That's a big drive.
They could go to Starbucks in Alamosa.
Unless you get over
Are you taking a city car? Just as long as you're not taking a baby.
Get there in 5.5 hours.
This guy's a good driver.
Mike's a great
Coffee.
driver.
To make pit stops.
Drive that big truck. Well, if you drink coffee, then you gotta
That's what I'm saying.
It's because I.
Just keeping it inside. It was something else that needs to go there.
Most of the time when you go to, it was always a
It'd be nice to have a whole.
So Eddie could request him to come out.
watch your door.
Sometimes I serve onions.
It didn't, but I didn't have to attend. And I had to take you to just to
That'll take care of all the
See, my thinking on that is, I did not like the way I moved forward. So I thought,
If I take too much caffeine, I just infect my sinus, my throat, that's what it is.
turn right my cheeks by there.
Just, I would say, just take the vote on setting it for that date, on the hearing date. I'm sorry, I wasn't. I think you're ready to do that. You're gonna do that, and then you'll have the.
So we just have one more call.
Let's see. So Carlos, Joe comes in later, but for the next one, Joe leaves. Correct. That's right.
That's it.
It's in each one.
All right, everyone, I'd like to convene the Board of Ethics of the City of Trinidad. It is July 17th, 8:08 p.m. My name is Michelle Miles. I'm the presiding officer. We neglected to take a vote in setting the meeting date. So I believe is there a motion for August 7th? Mr. Matei, yes?
I moved
Do we have a second?
to hearing be at the October 7th.
Okay, Ms. Griego?
I said,
Okay.
Good, let's take any discussion. Okay, let's take a vote. Roll call.
Donato,
Yes.
Griego,
yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Now give,
All right, I think that concludes this matter.
can I open the door?
Yes.
You can, yes.
Boy. It's getting old. Okay, guys, you two.
I'm gonna make a quick announcement about the results, just so everyone's clear.
Okay,
All right?
okay.
If you, I'll just make an announcement, we've set this for hearing on August 7th, which is the first meeting, the very next meeting we have. I think because it's quasi-judicial, we're not supposed to talk about it, but we had a very spirited discussion, and Mr. Downs will probably give you a sense of what council's feeling was when we had the ethics board, okay? Just want to say, I do welcome the opportunity to clear this up, as do we.
You said what day was this?
Okay, on to item 8F. Need a motion for item 8F?
Make a motion for a resolution authorizing the application for a Water Smart grant with the U.S. Department of Interior Bureau of Reclamation for financial assistance.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Valentine?
Mayor, members of council, I guess this is what happens when you get something right to the agenda, you get put in between.
That's right, yeah.
Anyway, we've, Johnson Controls, who is doing our AMI smart metering energy performance contract for our meters, came across this Water Smart grant. It has a deadline of July 26th, so usually with grants we need a resolution and a a letter, commitment letter from council, the commitment letter from the mayor, and the resolution as is in the packet, to go ahead and apply for the grant. So, it's a grant for $150,000 total. It's a $75,000 match from the city, and that would come out of the water department capital outlay line item. I don't know if there's questions.
Mr. Day?
Sounds like a good thing.
Are you gonna write this grant on your way to Cortez tomorrow?
Actually, Johnson Controls is going to do that.
That's even a better deal.
That's better.
No, I have no questions.
Thank you.
And again, you said this is for the water metering devices that we were
Correct.
trying to attain?
No questions? No.
Nothing for me.
Mr. Mayor?
Call vote, please.
Benado,
Yes.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes, thank you. On to item G, ethics complaint filed by council member Benado against Mayor Rico. Turn it over to, here we go again.
I'm getting better at this.
Yes. Kicks up.
Yes, let me just call it to order. I'd like to convene the Board of Ethics of the City of Trinidad. It is July 18th, 8:13 p.m. If Mr. Bernardo and Mayor Rico would care to recuse themselves?
Thank you.
And doors closed in the back too.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Downs, I guess the first order of business is to have the complaint read into the record.
And I will do that presently. Councilman Joe Donato complains against Mayor Phil Rico according to the Trinidad Code of Ordinances and states the following. 1, I am the liaison for Trinidad City Council to the military and to Fort Carson and Opinion Canyon Maneuver Site. I have been appointed liaison by the city. The mayor, 2. The mayor came to me recently and told me that he has appointed member to a committee, I'm reading this as it appears, has appointed member to a committee that deals with Fort Carson. The mayor took this upon himself to do this according to what he told me. 3, the mayor did not involve city council in this matter. Again, the mayor has acted and done things without telling or involving Trinidad City Council. 4, the mayor not only formed the committee for his own admission, but he also decided who he would appoint again without the involvement of city council. 5, this violates the Trinidad Ethics Code and Code of Ethics, section 2-71, paren 4, and a paren that says that council will speak with one voice. The mayor has been previously warned about this by council as well. I swear these facts are true and correct, Joe Donato.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. Just for Mr. Goodall and Mr. Lopez's benefit, the procedure we're going to go through here is we have an escalating level of decisions to make. The first one is someone can move to dismiss the complaint. If it gets seconded, then we have a discussion about that, and we go through a roll call. If that doesn't pass, then we move on to the next step, which is to decide whether to refer the matter further. And if that passes, you know, we have to have a complaint delivered to Mayor Rico, and we decide whether we need to appoint an independent investigator, and however we decide that happens, then we set a hearing date. So it's a 4-step process. It took us a little while to work through it, but if you just work with us a little bit. The question I have, I'm going to read this out. The first task is to do to determine if there are determine if there are insufficient facts to sustain or verify the complaint on a preliminary basis. If any member feels that there aren't sufficient facts to sustain or verify the complaint, they should move to dismiss the complaint. If there is a motion and a second, take the vote. If it passes, the complaint is dismissed. Should that occur, the Board of Ethics is to determine if they feel that the complaint was filed for purposes of harassment. So I'm going to ask, would anyone like to make a motion to dismiss? just wanna make sure.
Nope.
All right, having heard none, the motion fails for lack of, a second, I guess. It's never really made. So now we move on to part two, and it says if the complaint is not dismissed, entertain a motion to see if the board is of the opinion that there are facts sufficient to sustain or verify the complaint. If this passes, set the matter for hearing for one of our 2 city council meeting dates in August. Do I have a motion to determine that whether there are facts sufficient to sustain and verify the complaint? In other words, moving the
So
issue
moved.
forward. Mr. Lopez, second. Mr. Goodall. Discussion. Mr. Matei?
I believe that at first blush, there's insufficient information on which to render a decision, and that a hearing is in order to expand on these concerns, and therefore we can make an enlightened decision.
Ms. Griego?
I agree with Councilman Matei. Also, I need some clarification on that Code of Ethics section that Mr. Bonato referenced. That's just, he meant to say that's the same paragraph that was referenced in the first one.
Correct.
I don't think that particularly pertains to this complaint as well. But in order for closure, we need to proceed further.
Ms. Lopez?
I would like to just see more of the proof that he's accusing of, so that way I can be better informed.
I share, can I discuss what we discussed before, or no? Maybe I should just
Well,
start over again.
That is a public hearing, however, 2 of the members
Yeah.
were recused, so
Okay,
I
well, I'm
don't
just
think you
gonna
should.
make my separate point,
Okay.
okay? I don't think 04-721 precisely covers what's being alleged here at all. And I think that, I remember when that provision was drafted, it was designed so that we wouldn't criticize each other in public when we had a cup of coffee. In other words, oh, they voted for it, but I was smart enough not to, okay? That's what the intent of that was. And it doesn't say anything about everyone rowing with the same oar. What it says is, don't talk trash in public with the constituents. So I don't think it's directly applicable. But something did go on here, and I have some insight into what happened, and I have some reservations about whether we should be reading once again that provision within the context of the framework, which talks about, Wes, can you read paragraph 3 of the framework? I somehow.
You know, I was looking for the paragraph you read.
Here, I've got it.
Okay.
Okay, all of this has to be interpreted within the context of a framework, okay? Declaration of purpose, okay? So on the first page, it says, accountability, assure that government is conducted openly, efficiently, equitably, and honorably in a manner that permits the citizens to make informed judgments and hold public servants accountable. I think there's a certain lack of transparency that is being alleged here, and I think that's been, it's not the first time the criticism's been levied. I think there probably should be an airing of facts here, and I agree with Mr. Matei and Ms. Griego and Mr. Lopez. But I do have some problems with, I think honestly our code of ethics probably needs to be amended.
Yes.
Right.
There's no question about it. It's, anyway, Mr. Goodall.
I agree with all 4 of you, and especially on our code of ethics, because I've had a lot of time to study them leading into the proceedings that were before this. I would like more than hearsay evidence to move forward with this, but I do believe something occurred here also. I'm just do not have enough facts in front of me to render a decision at this time. I would like it to be investigated more.
Are you suggesting that we should appoint an investigator?
I'm not so much suggesting we appoint an investigator, but it needs to be, I don't know.
It needs to be aired.
It
Yeah.
needs to be aired.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fair enough.
I would like to hear from the people firsthand instead of by phone or secondhand that are making accusations, and to verify the stories.
Right.
And if I could please, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I want to say that the provision that you've been referring to is section 2A Roman numeral 3
Yeah.
in the framework.
Right.
So that is what you're referencing. And I do want to say that if you do decide to advance this, you're saying right now, and I know there isn't a lot of factual information in the complaint, but you're saying there are sufficient facts to believe that a violation may have occurred in violation of the applicable provisions of the Ethics Code or the Code of Ethics. Sorry for that, but that is the finding or the motion. That
It's
you
not a
made.
perfect conclusion, but it is a conclusion.
Right, correct. And it's not, you're not deciding that that's what happened, but you're just saying there are sufficient facts.
Again, when someone raises it to this level, they kind of deserve their day in court. I think it's happened to every single one of us who's been on council for any period of time. So, you're looking at me funny.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm in awe of you. Keep going.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, so what's next? Does anyone want, the next thing we do need to consider formally, does anyone want to make a motion to appoint an independent
Yeah,
investigator?
I'm sorry, we need a vote on the
Oh,
motion
okay.
to advance.
Okay.
The motion.
First and a
Oh, no, we need a motion.
We need a motion and a second.
We need a motion, I'm
and a
sorry.
second. All right, so call the vote.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles.
Yes. Okay, now what we do, would anyone like to make a motion?
Now that we have decided to proceed to hearing, I move that it is not necessary to have an
Very good. Thank
independent
you.
investigator handle or respond to or investigate these circumstances. Rather, I think it will satisfy the goals, intent, and motivation of this council to have the concerned parties each speak their piece.
A second.
All right, discussion? All right, call the vote.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes?
Miles.
Yes. And lastly, what we have to, now that we've decided to move this case forward, what will happen is Mr. Downs, within 10 days, will forward the details of the complaint and the rationale to Mayor Rico. And in the meantime, we'll set this for hearing. There was a consensus in the last session that let's just get this done. Okay, so sooner the better. Do I have a motion to set a meeting date?
And might I say, I don't know how long these will take, but the first one, you're going to have at least 3 witnesses, and the one that was called before, not commenting on what happened. You're going to have 3 witnesses. That may be rather time consuming. So you may not want to have the same complaint during the same meeting. Ms. Gear also tells us that you have 2 liquor licensing hearings on the August 7th meeting. Yeah.
Can we
date.
start
So-
early?
So
Do you want to have a special meeting? Can we do that?
you could, or you could have it on the
Now, any
21st.
council member can,
Yeah. I think it's probably more appropriate to have it on a regular meeting. So would August 21st be okay with everybody, since that's the next meeting?
I suppose, I just don't want to stretch it out for the mayor.
I understand,
Yeah,
I understand, okay.
I don't know, I would hope to just do it on the same night.
Do it
Maybe
on
one
the
long
same-
night, just get it over with.
Do it on the
It's up to
7th
you
and
guys.
order
Can we,
pizza.
can we
I don't wanna do it on my
can we table a
birthday.
liquor license?
Can we say, well, they're wanting to do business and open and shit, yeah.
No, I thought it might have been a renewal or something.
Oh, no, new license hearings.
Right. So I guess you will have a motion to set it for August 7th at the regularly scheduled.
So can we agree not to have a work session and start the meeting at 5 instead?
Yes, that's a good idea.
It's great idea.
Will that work?
And I want to remind everyone that this is a quasi judicial matter. The only thing you can base your conclusions on is what you hear in the public hearing.
Good point.
Okay? And if you talk to another city council member, or you can talk to Wes, because he's your council, but if you talk to staff members or people in the public, and it comes out, you will be recused. Okay? So.
And please, no, that's absolutely correct, and thank you for that. And please know that I'm not going to be serving, of course, as prosecutor or defense lawyer. I mean, everyone is going to be handling their own, their own case, whether for, pressing the cause or defending the cause. I'm here to advise the members of council who are deciding the hearing.
All right, I think that concludes this matter.
Now we have to vote on the seventh.
The seventh.
Oh, the seventh.
Yeah, all right.
Okay. We have a motion to set the date
I
for the
so
seventh.
move that we have the second ethics hearing on the 7th of August.
I'll second that.
Call the vote.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Now you can bang.
No, you're
I've got a question. Back that gavel.
Is
the
meeting
going to
start at 5 o'clock? Correct. A regular meeting begins at 5.
On the 22nd?
On the 7th.
7th, so you're gonna have two that.
Yes, that's correct. Both of these on August 7th.
Bring a lot of cake.
A lot of batteries.
All right, we've set the matter for hearing on the 7th. Again, Les will get into the details of what our rationale is.
We're down one council member.
Yes, I did not see Joe.
It's more in the effort to find more facts.
I'm bummed. Oh, yeah.
That's been set for hearing on the, no, that's been set for hearing on the 7th also, Joe. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're on to item 9, council reports. Mr. Matei?
Nothing to report, sir. Thank you.
Aaron?
Nothing to report.
Carlos?
I would like to let everyone know I went to the CML Executive Board retreat this past week. It was very educational. A couple of the major things I took away from it was that a professor from CSU, Reagan Welcome, is very concerned about water in the state right now, especially for southern Colorado. He's led us to all believe that, while northern Colorado will still continue to have droughts and yet still remain wet, southern Colorado is in the mindset of, or the trend of not just having droughts, but becoming more arid. So it is something that we're going to have to be more conscientious of with water, and there is passive, ways to resist using as much water through like the California toilets, they're like 1.4 gallons versus 4-gallon toilets, or like zero escaping your yards, or there's other ways of just actually like turning off your faucet quicker, things like that, consumption less during peak hours of the day, etc. I thought that was one of the big things I took away from there. But Wade Troxel, the mayor of Fort Collins, was a great host. He gave us a tour of the Soapstone Natural Prairie Preserve up there, which is about a 20,000-acre preserve that the city of Fort Collins owns itself. They have their own, not Parks and Rec Department, but an open space program where they have brought in a herd of purebred bison from Yellowstone National Park that have started from 10 and have grown to a herd of 50 plus animals over 5 years. And I just think it's got potential growth and something that maybe we could pursue for another outdoor space program that we are trying to look and pursue. And it was very, it was a good economic driver for their area. It was right up by along the Wyoming border, so we were like 25 miles north, which made me think we're just 3 miles south from here in Trinidad to a potential land acquisition. Very good stuff. Canyon City will be hosting an open house for their permanent supportive housing ribbon cutting on the 24th of this month, which is next Tuesday at 2 p.m. I will be attending that. If anyone would like to come with me and see their grand opening and talk to their mayor who's had struggles with their permanent supportive housing initiative at first, and now it's garnered a lot of community support, you're more than welcome to let me know, and I'd be happy to drive us up there. Tomorrow, the youth...
Excuse me, what time are you leaving?
I'll probably be leaving around 11:30 in the morning.
What time is that up there?
It's at 2 p.m. And if you want the logistics of where the location is, I'm more than happy to get that to you. The Youth Club Pizzeria is going to be opening. It's called TYC Pizza. We're having a chamber luncheon tomorrow. We're hosting it, sponsoring it. We're waiting still though for health department inspection that's being performed next week. We had another inspection from the plumbing department today, which we passed. So I just want to keep you up. I was hoping to open sooner, but we had to wait in line for the health department and other things. But that's all I have to report at this point.
You're hosting the luncheon tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, we won't be serving our pizzas, but it'll still be a great time. I don't know. I was mad too. I was hoping that we'd be serving our pizzas, but
Nothing to report.
it was an issue.
All right, so I was at the Parks and Rec meeting last night. It was a very good meeting, a lot of stuff. So, Tom, I'm going to continue to ring your bell a little bit on this. They're playing tennis up there. They love the courts. Still no lights, and safety netting is a big concern. It was their understanding that the safety nets was either part of the bid or it was to go out for bid. Do you know which?
It was not part of the original bid.
All right, but it was supposed to bid. It will be bid.
I won't talk from the back.
Okay.
Yes, it's gonna go out to bid if we can find someone willing to come down and do it. That is the issue right now. Everybody that I contact says it's not a big enough job for them to come down to.
Okay.
So at this point, I'm looking at buying the material and having our guys put it out.
Okay.
Whether by installing, I talked to Mr. Valentine, Mike, and about getting large, long power poles and inserting them and using them to hold up the equipment. That way we can do it ourselves and have it done.
Right. Because they're excited, they want to have a ribbon cutting and everything and get an announcement and get people out there. We have one issue on the west court on the north end. There is a wire that runs across that goes to a security camera for the putting green. So when you serve on that court, when whoever serves, that line is low enough that it is an issue when they throw the balls out.
Okay.
So if you just would look at that, I went out and looked at it myself. That's why I know it is a security camera to the practice putting green.
Okay.
All
I
right.
have not noticed that, but we will certainly.
All right, thank you, sir.
If I may, one
Yes.
other thing we need to do is we need to provide ADA access to both courts.
Yes,
That's-
I agree. I was
That's
looking
coming.
at that, so,
And in order to do that, we have to have an ADA parking space.
okay. So another thing that went on at the meeting is, they have a gentleman that's gonna make and donate dog exercise equipment for the dog park. So that's pretty cool. I thought the little teeter-totters where they run up one side and go down. So the gentleman just had shoulder surgery, so as soon as he recoups, he's gonna be making that. They do have a complaint with the dog park that we have some people that are taking unruly dogs and they're throwing them over into the small dog park and using that as an isolation area while the nice dogs play in the other area. I'm not sure what we can do about that, but that was an issue and I said I would bring it up. I don't know what we can do about that. Mr. Rossetti already had heard that we had a complaint about it being mowed and more bags for the poo and the poo bag dispenser, so I think that's already been taken care of. And then, we had Officer Duran there last night, and they're coordinating a polar plunge to be held here. Last year they traveled to Pueblo and did it. So we're trying to coordinate, a date was kind of chosen for January 5th. They're working on securing a venue. All the money goes to benefit the, I thought I wrote that down. Oh, Special Olympics. They provide the insurance, they provide everything for that, so when the time comes, we'll be hoping to get a lot of community support. We're looking to do it, if we can get the application through, either at the boat ramp at the lake. We gotta have divers, and we gotta have, in case people get cold, and we're also looking at a venue down by, at the La Puerta beach area, possibly. They think that may have enough water, it would be a better area to do it at. So, I think that's all I have. All right. Did I remember everything, ladies? All right. I wrote it down.
I'd just like to say, you know, looking at the water restrictions and stuff like that, you know, everybody, I worry about water so much, is that I think the city of Trinidad is doing a pretty good job. But I do see a lot of people still watering when they're not supposed to water. It's a shame that that's happening. I don't think people are really taking this drought situation serious. I think we still have to get out more literature to these people and say the time is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., not from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., because a lot of people are getting confused with this. That's really what I wanted to say about that.
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Someone came to me asking that maybe we consider doing some radio interviews on the subject as like a public service announcement. And I don't know if you or someone on staff would be
I
willing
think
to
I
do
was
that.
interviewed by the radio station about that. Were you? I remember.
They do the FYI that's aired on Thursdays, maybe we can get on board there.
And I think it's mostly, excuse me, Mr. Goodall, I think it's mostly that it's the elderly people that really don't understand what's really going on with the water situation. I feel bad for them and stuff like that, but the people I see, the other night I was going home at 7 o'clock and there was a lady on Main Street out there with her hose out there watering and stuff like that. But that's all I have to say on that. But what I have to report here is very, very discouraging and very hurtful for me. And I mean, it really hurts me. And and what I'm going to say, I'm going to have to step down from being the liaison for the city of Trinidad, for Fort Carson, and Pinon Canyon. I worked very hard for this city and with the Army both. And I love the military. I love everybody that served in every military branch. But it's come down to the conclusion of what transpired, that Joe Bonato's not needed for the liaison of the city. And it hurts me to say this, because like I said, I worked hard. When Mr. Riordan was on this, who was the mayor, and he appointed me this, I made it a point that I would do my best to do things for the best of Trinidad and the best of Fort Carson and Pinon Canyon. So with that said, I'm looking at this council. You'll have to appoint another liaison to do it, and I wish you luck, because Joe Bonato don't have no sense. So, thank you.
The things to report is I attended the Arts and Culture meeting last week, and the major thing there is that we're going to be mapping out the entire city as to where to place art. That's kind of the thing that their biggest concern is right now, as to where to put art around town, so they're just not plopping it and trying to make a decision at the last minute. They want to be able to make a plan. That's kind of the big thing that they're working on. They also have a certain amount of dollars, and I don't remember what that dollar amount is. We're trying to figure out how to allocate that at this time. So we're gonna be working on it. I just want to say that, Greg and I attended the change of leadership at Fort Carson a couple of weeks ago. That was kind of nice to see, so just to let you know. Other than that, reports by city manager.
On September 6th, after 2 p.m., will be the meeting that we've been trying to arrange with the military. That was the only date that seemed to be available for everybody. So we were asked to set that up.
Would you repeat that?
September 6th. It'll be like 2 o'clock or a little later. depending on-
Anytime after 2, if council will just throw out what's a good time so we can firm it up, that would be great.
October 6th?
No, September 6th.
September 6th.
In council chambers, yeah.
There's another legislative roundtable that's scheduled for July 31st from 1 to 3 at the Pioneer Room at Trinidad State. This time the county is setting the agenda, so we'll be getting details out fairly soon of the people who are invited to speak, and I just want to let you know of the dates and the times.
What time is that again?
It's July 31st from 1 to 3. It's already been stated, but Mike Valentine, Tom Beach, and I are driving to Cortez in the morning to testify on the DOLA hearing for the La Puerta grant application. Then I am going to be attending the DOLA Housing Small Community Housing Conference on August 9th. It's going to be in Montrose. And I'm going to be giving a presentation on space to create. Because of the Kip Hamden issue and possibly one with the Trust for Public Lands for an election request, there's a timetable we have to meet, which may require a special meeting sometime between now and the beginning of August, because we have to have a decision by July 31st. We have to
July
notify
30th.
30th. We have to notify the county. And then we received bids on the Noah's Ark building project, and unless you have an objection, I'm going to reject them, because we clearly told the architect the maximum amount of this project is $400,000. The lowest bid was $750,000. There's just no way. I don't know what's going on, but something's got to change. There's no way we're going to, couldn't in good conscience do that. So unless you object, I'm going to reject them. And then with special event licenses, we realized this week there isn't a requirement that special event licenses get sent to the state for approval. They can just be approved by you. And this would speed the process up dramatically. So if you are supportive of that, we can just change it. There's no requirement in changing ordinances or anything else. Is that okay?
That's fine. So like the Blues Fest, you're saying for the...
When it's done with the city council, it's grand.
When does that go in?
Wouldn't that be nice?
I think we do it right away. Yeah, that's it.
We just notify the state. That's it. We notify them.
Mayor, I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't you guys want to stay a little longer?
Thank
Just a little longer?
Longer run the stuff in the
you. Here, I'm sorry.
Good. Back up here.
Don't forget.
Don't forget.